goal was beyond anything I thought I'd ever achieve in my climbing career, honestly. Beyond it, I almost didn't believe that it was possible.
It was the best climbing experience maybe I'll ever have.
How could these two guys from Britain, a place that doesn't really have Offwidths, how could they become so good?
He prepares himself.
It all started with getting into crack climbing, and that started 5 years ago when I had a really bad finger injury where it was so bad I couldn't route set, I couldn't pull the trigger on my drill. I almost had all of my abilities in climbing taken away from me, and then I had to look at myself and go, is there anything open to me at all? And it was literally just crack climbing. I think coming across Offwidth was actually a little bit of a mistake, because I don't think anyone deliberately tries to go into an Offwidth.
An Offwidth crack is something that is not the correct size for you. It's off for you. Hand cracks this width are easy to climb. I can't fall off a hand crack. It's impossible. You could hang a car on me. When it comes to this size fist, it gets harder. An Offwidth is just a little bit harder than your fist. Then it becomes very easy to fall off a crack.
When you get bigger than a fist jam, that's when it's starting to come Offwidth, because you can't use go-handed jams. You're having to mix things up, get arms in, chicken wings. But then you get to the other end of the scale where they get too wide and you can get inside, and then it's not an Offwidth anymore, it's a squeeze chimney.
There's always another limb that you can somehow get stuck in and might just give you an extra 20 seconds and 20 inches of upward progress. And if you can give it 100% on that, you just can just pull out of the bag.
Okay, yeah, I am Stevie. A lot of people don't get into Offwidth because they preconceive it as painful and a lot of work, and then they attach on that a negative connotation. I mean, it is a lot of work, but that's what makes it more rewarding in the long run.
You know, if you want to do everything daintily, sure, maybe you should take up ballet,
I have this correlation that I make between, say, boxing, for instance. You'll hear people call boxing the sweet science. Offwidth climbing is very much the sweet science of climbing, because what happens is the brutality of the act, the brutality of boxing, the brutality of wide cracks, it disguises the craft. Good professional boxers have an incredible craft, and really good Offwidth climbers have that same craft. But the brutality of it, the struggle of it, makes it seem like there's no art to it and there's no craft to it. But if you think that, you're on the wrong path.
So I was working at the Edge, I was a route setter down there, and I watched him climb, and he kind of took my interest to start with because he kept on cheating his way up my routes and finding sequences that I didn't like and how I hadn't set it.
And then one day he asked me whether I wanted to go and try and break the world record for how many routes we can climb in a day.
And he seemed really keen straight away, and I thought, oh, that's good. And then I had this slight sort of moment of guilt. I thought, oh, I know, he's only 16, maybe I shouldn't be encouraging him to go and solo a load of routes. So I kind of had a chat with him and said, is this a kind of level of risk you're happy with?
So, yeah, he asked me and I said, yeah. And basically we managed to do 550 routes in a day, and pretty much from then on, the climbing partnership has just carried on.
I think our two personalities play off on each other really well, and he's definitely the best person I've ever been climbing with, and everything's just kind of fun. Even when we're trying really hard and we're serious underneath it, we're having fun on on the exterior, and it's never too serious.
Honestly, it's not happening.
I've always been really competitive ever since a child, in the way that I would storm off and just cry my eyes out when I didn't win something. I'd do like a John McEnroe and stuff all the time. But with Pete, it's more like I guess like a younger brother, because he is a bit younger than me, but a younger brother that you're really proud of, but always pushes me on more. I'm always slightly following like in his footstep. He's always like a little bit better than me, a little bit ahead of me and things, but I like following on and being pushed to my limit with that.
I did a lot of sports up to the age of 16. Everything else filtered out as such, and climbing just seemed to carry on.
He's climbed from a really young age, so he's got this really good body awareness, and we all look at people like Johnny Dawes and how he's got this 3D awareness as well, and Pete's really, really good at that. So for wide cracks, in many ways it's a 3D thing, because you're moving in and out of the crack as well, rather than just on a flat face. And he's just brilliant at doing that. He tries really, really hard. Harder than a lot of people realise he tries. So we go outside and we do a move, or we try a climb, and I try it and I can't do it, and I think I'm giving everything. He'll go up and he'll do it, and I just go, wait a minute, I know I'm the same strength on that, and then I just give it just like a gut-wrenching effort, and I feel like I'm going to be sick, and then I do it, and then I think, that's what he's doing every single time.
I think to achieve what you want to do and to be good at what, I'm not saying I'm good at what I do, but to be reasonably good at something that you want to do, you kind of have to be obsessive about it. You have to train a lot and focus on it. I don't know whether I'm obsessed. No, I don't know.
Oh God, didn't think I was getting around that lip then. Got a bit stuck.
I only describe him to my friends as obsessed. That's the only way I can deal with it. Yeah, he's definitely got some screw looses. Quite often he can't stop thinking about it, and if we say are having a conversation about something that I think is quite important, I don't know, like housework or something like that, it's very boring in my life, but something that I find interesting, or next holiday or something, I'll quite often find that say his hands start sweating, and I'm just like, he's not with me at all. He is on a completely different level.
I have this very unrealistic goal and expectation that I put myself, that I actually want to be the very best at it, and even though I know in almost all circumstances I can't do that, there's a really strong underlying root that says, you know what, Tom, you can do it if you just try hard enough.
Come on, that's it, keep going, that's it, just gun it.
Go on, I've got you.
Come on.
Keep it going.
Come on, Tom. Come on, you're nearly there.
Yeah, lift your foot.
Come on. No. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I first found out about Century Crack from the On the Edge article, but it was years before I even thought about Offwidth, and it was almost as if it was in the bottom of my mind and at the recesses of it. And then when I got interested into Offwidth and me and Pete started doing a lot of things, one of us went, do you remember that thing that Stevie went and had a go at.
And I remember finding this photo of Stevie on it hanging upside down, kind of halfway through the route, and I was just like, oh my god, that just, we're never going to be able to do that. That just looks insane.
They knew that I'd tried this great crack, and Tom had asked me about it. He got all the details out of me and all the measurements. I was quite happy to give him all of these details because I wanted to see Century Crack done.
So that's how we knew 2 years ago the size to construct that original crack in the Offwidth cellar.
We just sat down with a big piece of paper and started drawing all these mad diagrams for how we could transfer my cellar into this dungeon of doom, and all the different widths we built, and how we'd have all these, you know, roof cracks all the way through the ceiling.
And you come through to the main room. This is where all the action really happens. So here we've got this other hand crack that leads all the way through, kind of like the other half of green spit that I was using to train on years back. And then first thing in here is, this is the Hastinator, which is this 45-degree Offwidth that you can kind of insert half your body into it. Then over here, we've got the original Offwidth that we built 2 years before we went out to America. And
that Offwidth thing's just this complete all-body pump, and you have to try on it just like nothing else you've ever felt before. And that feeling that I got from doing my first ever Offwidth and just screaming my way to the top and just feeling like I couldn't do any more, I can just replicate that again and again and again every time I train and every time I do another Offwidth. I just find it really satisfying. I don't know why. I just love it. I just love it. And so we just have to keep on recreating that sort of addictive all-body burn where we just practically killing ourselves in a session. And I've come down here with Pete and we've just been sweating away and screaming, and you know, people can hear us upstairs through the floorboards just banging away and until 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's just brilliant fun. I just absolutely love it.
I think I train well on my own, but because I know he's training here, then that keeps me spurred on at home. When I'm training, I'm just like, he'll email me and be like, oh yeah, I just did 50 upside down sit-ups. I'm like, oh no, I've already done 20 today. I need to get on this. I need to get on it.
I think I like crush loads of nerves in my toes.
You get really bad pains everywhere, like on your fists and the back of your hands and on your toes. But then after like a year, it all just numbs away. It all numbs into nothingness. I think I've lost sensation in my toes.
Oh, it smells fruity. Oh, that's good.
So we just set about just going backwards and forwards on that thing like you've never seen before. I've left so much rubber in there and used up so many pairs of shoes. You know, we've done thousands and thousands of feet of horizontal foot stacking and hand stacking and everything. And then, you know, on top of that, then we've done a load of strength and conditioning work. Come on. Come on. Come on, into 10 seconds. Last little bit, come on.
Go on, Pete.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time.
Yeah, I'd have like friends and family around, and all you would hear was like, and crunch, crunch, and bang, 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 and it was just, and that was frequent. That was very often.
Come on.
It was constant for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can really know how hard you can try until you've tried really hard on an Offwidth. On a face climb or on an overhanging sport climb, you can get absolutely milked in your forearms, and your fingers are like uncurling and everything, and you come down, your forearms are burning, but it's just your forearms that are burning. You come down an Offwidth and like your hands are crushed, your biceps are gone, your whole legs are like jelly, and your core, you just can't sit up anymore, and you feel wasted. And I just think it's good fun, just absolutely annihilating yourself.
Come on. 5 more. 4, 3, 2. Last one. Come on. Come on.
When Stevie wrote to me, he always looked at me as being just a lowly apprentice. I suppose that kind of added into the element for me that, you know what, I'm going to take him by surprise. That sort of stuff really spurs me on. I like it when people doubt what I can do.
There are only a few great Offwidths in the world. They're not in England or Europe, they're in America.
I think it was always in the back of mine and Tom's mind, just like, if we can go out there and just show them. Just show them how to climb some Offwidths.
There's a scene of climbers who like their finger cracks, ones that like hand cracks, and then a really kind of hardcore group of climbers in the US that are really obsessed with their Offwidths. We're in contact with them, we know who they are, they know who we are, and we're always scoping each other out. And to some degree, we've kind of been quite quiet about how we've developed our climbing.
They were sending us emails like, oh, you know, you should come out to the States and whatever. And we were just like, oh yeah, maybe one day. One day we might come out. Yeah, all the Offwidths look amazing out there. Yeah, be psyched to come. we were just like pushing away down in the cellar.
Ultimately, we're going to have this showdown that's going to happen fairly shortly, and we'll know who is, you know, climbing well on the wide, really.
Lately things have been easy to remember. Some things I find it harder to forget. Days will turn out so much brighter. Thinking things I haven't even thought.
You know, the States was like this place where Offwidths are hard and mean, and they shut you down. And we didn't know whether we'd, you know, done the right training for it. When we first went there, we went on this Offwidth boulder problem. It's given V5, you know, fairly standard boulder problem, and I don't think Tom actually managed to do it ever.
I was so tense and nervous I couldn't do it. I had 15 goes and I couldn't do this V4. And Pete had done it first go. I went, right, we need to walk away from this. I'm getting really stressed. I can't do a V4 and I've just put 2 years effort into this. So we went round the corner to a V8 or something like that and did it, you know, within 5 minutes, and then it was kind of, oh, phew, you know, we're okay here.
Yeah, so Tom and Pete showed up, and first day out, we take them to Bob Scarpelli's classic squat. They flip a roll of tape, I guess, to decide who's gonna climb first. Pete won the flip, and he gets to climb first, and he does squat on site. And Tom actually finished the pitch that day too. And so what took me weeks to do was done right before my very eyes, first try, second try. They spend a couple of weeks at Vitavu, and they tick everything off of the list, Lucille included, Worm Drive, Big Pink. They continued on down to the desert. Here, fairly quickly, they had climbed all of what they had on their list, the hard offwidths, including Pete's on-site ascent of Belly Full of Bad Berries, which that took me also several days. That was something that I did not think could be done. My mind couldn't wrap around that being done on-site.
Gabriel's is recognised as being the hardest offwidth in America, and in a way was recognised as being the hardest offwidth in the world.
And you climb this starting chimney, and then you get up to the top, and you have to flip. You have to flip upside down, and you're fully inverted up to like your head, like up to your neck, and you have to kind of shuffle along upside down in this invert squeeze chimney with these chicken wings. The tricky section is coming out of this invert squeeze and dropping down, so you're undercutting the crack. And it's quite beefy in this section because it's not completely horizontal, so you can't keep shuffling, you have to kind of move upwards a little bit. I managed to work it in a couple of hours and then did it first red point. So when I did that, I was pretty chuffed that this was considered the hardest offwidths in the States before going on it, and I've managed to, do it in half a day.
To a lot of American climbers, it must have been pretty hard to take that some Brits from a country where there are no offwidths to speak of can come over here and climb the hardest offwidths. It's like, what the hell?
Okay, Tom.
I was looking around this thing called the White Rim Trail, looking for cracks to climb. Then a guy called Crusher, a friend of mine, took me there. He said, I found the perfect 120-foot hand crack. We got there, it wasn't hand size, it was 7-inch size. So I cursed him a bit. But then I realised it was maybe on to do.
And he had this vision of what was feasible. And his vision consisted of finding the most gnarly, impossible things he could find and just launching himself at them. In France, they gave him the nickname, the Mad Cow, because of his attitude, bull-headed, really strong, unstoppable.
I went on it 5 times, I think. It's quite hard to understand that you want to do it. There was going to be a lot of pain involved.
He put his best bull-headed effort in, but the sheer physical, grueling nature of 120 foot of roof crack was too much. He just didn't have that superhuman level of strength.
Century crack lived with me for 10 years in my mind, in the back of my mind. I would think about it and how to climb it, and it was always a problem for me, and it was always a magical beauty to it. You just don't get climbs like that. They're not common.
So it's left gathering dust for about a decade. I mean, if Stevie, who is one of the strongest climbers I've ever seen, if it was beyond him, then, who the hell is ever going to be able to do it? Nobody.
So this thing, I guess Stevie is calling it the Century Crack. From what I've heard, is several grades harder than the hardest established offwidth currently. That might be, obviously would take the throne then as the hardest offwidth in the world.
So I got an email out of the blue 10 years later from this guy, Tom Randell. Tom was asking about the location of this mysterious roof crack, and he was interested in maybe free climbing it. So I thought, okay, well, you come over and I'll take you down there and show you if you think you've got a chance of doing it.
We didn't have a truck to get down there, and Crusher drove us down there and everything, and it's a 3.5 hour, 4 hour, 4-wheel drive. You can see it's like this perfect splitter, like size 5 cam for the whole way along, and you're like, oh man, yeah, that is a beefy offwidth.
it just takes you out of your comfort zone. You can't comprehend it.
They just looked at it and thought, wow, this is every bit of what we thought it might possibly be. Let's get started.
The main goal throughout the 2 years was always Sentry. So that's what we basically trained for all the time.
And so they went out there, and the beginning was just work the route, go out a ways, put in a cam, hang on it, rest, do another 10, 15 feet, put another cam in, rest. They really had this figured out. If the climb was kind of what they were expecting, then they kind of knew what to do. But of course, the question remained whether they still were going to be able to do the whole thing.
Well, we worked it this first day, and we put all the cams in, and because we knew we were down for, you know, we'd be back down the next day for another go. We were like, well, there's no point in taking them all out again, because that would just flipping beef us.
The next day we did what we'd done on all other important routes, which is to flip a roll of tape. And mostly you're kind of nervous about being the person who goes first, so you don't want it to land on your side sometimes. But with Sentry, it was both of us flipping this roll of tape going, oh, I want to go first, so badly want to have a go on this.
Then it landed on Tom, so Tom went first. Wasn't really any expectations of what he was going to do or anything.
I was really nervous, but I just knew that I had to knuckle down, start to get back that feeling that I did when I trained in the cellar of just getting to a zone, think about how hard I'm trying, just breathe, keep going, pace your arms, pace your legs.
Nice one, Tom. Come on, Tom. Good skills. Keep it going.
I had this mantra of focus on performance, not the goal, as I was going through the route to kind of keep me in this zone, because I didn't want to become aware of my surroundings, because it was so intimidating to be on that route and know the situation that you're in and the kind of the effort and the pain that you're putting yourself through. If you became aware of that, you lost your performance. So I just had to think about how I was climbing and the way in which I was doing it, and not think about that top out either.
So he's in his hand fist stacks, and he's not shouting, but you can hear him like, it's a loud whisper. It's like, focus on performance, not the goal. Focus on performance, not the goal. It's just like that for 120 foot, like 15 minutes.
You know, you're just going, focus on performance, not the goal. Focus on performance, not the goal. And you're just there, doing it again and again and again. And as I got round the lip and through this kind of hardest crux section and into that top niche, I was shaking. I was really nervous because I was thinking, shit, I could do this. This is fucking insane. I'm not ready for this route, but I've got to do it. I'm nearly there, but I've got to focus on performance. I can't think about the goal because the goal was beyond anything I thought I'd ever achieve in my climbing career. Honestly, beyond it. I almost didn't believe that it was possible. And then when I arrived at that last bit, before the last 15 foot of climbing, it was like a dream. Really strange, really strange. I topped out on that route and I just burst into tears. I just completely lost it because it was just such a massive kind of outpouring of emotion and effort of 2 years and belief in myself and putting together a goal and putting everything into it.
I don't even have words for it. I just feel like, I don't know, it just feels like a story that I'll tell someone one day that someone I knew did, and it wasn't really me. I've never done anything like that, never. I never even believed I'd ever do anything like that. Yeah, thank God I've got such a supportive wife. Probably owe at least half of this to her, to be honest. Right, onwards and supportive. Let's do this.
It was kind of like half a cent when I topped out. It really needed for Pete to do it as well. We were going to walk out of that route and walk out of the valley in 4 hours' time, and he now had one chance, one slot to do the route.
Get nice strong arse shuffles when you need them. Good.
I was just like, man, I've got to flipping do this now.
Going really well.
I was just breaking it down into these sections, these 10-foot sections basically, what we had down in the cellar. And every time I got to a cam that we'd placed, it was just like, you know, just another lap, just one more lap, take it bit by bit. I was really nervous that he wouldn't do it and he would have some problems with the pressure and he'd make a mistake.
And he was hanging underneath there for like 20 minutes or more, which I couldn't believe. You can't just hang upside down for like 20 minutes without being completely wrecked, just physically destroyed, surely. He gets to where it turns into merely 45-degree overhanging, where you have to invert and start doing like real regular moves. And at that point, he wasn't even breathing hard. I couldn't believe it. And then that was it. He'd done it. He'd red pointed the thing. His second day on the thing. It's just unbelievable. One of the most impressive bits of climbing I've ever seen in my life. I was just blown away by that.
It was the best like climbing experience like ever. Don't like to admit it, but did cry a little bit. Tom did as well. Hopefully more than me.
It just completed it, and when we both came down to the base and like had a good old man hug at the bottom, it was just like, oh yes, you know, that's an amazing day, and I won't forget that day.
Done. That's just 2 years of work just boshed in one go. Yeah.
They both red pointed the thing their second day on the route, and for me it seemed like, wow, that was just fabulous. It was amazing. I couldn't believe that. And for them, the same thing. They were just so happy, so overjoyed. They'd done what they'd come here to do. And then when they started posting things on the web, telling people about it, then they got all these complaints from people about, oh, you used those pre-placed gear, that doesn't count, you know, it's a trad climb. You can't red point a trad climb. You're supposed to place the gear as you go.
There was a lot of people who were really psyched, like a lot of people we knew back in Sheffield, and then there was obviously the usual kind of UKC banter. It just kind of went downhill. And then Stevie posted something on his blog, just like how he didn't think it was the first ascent.
The style and ethic of this kind of crack, Offwidth crack climbing, is very strict. You have to put the gear in on lead. And that's it. That's the rule. If you don't do it that way, your ascent doesn't count.
When somebody just puts you down like that, I mean, it shouldn't really, because you know what you've done, but you're just like, oh man, just what are you on about? Just
to do the route on fixed gear. For me personally, that wouldn't be an ascent. Not when you set yourself up the way that they set themselves up. You got an obligation.
Well, they were there for a fucking month saying that they couldn't fucking go there. Fucking, you know what this means? This is Maltese. It means don't try and fucking pull one over me. Oh, we were busy. That's the whole reason they went to America, that crack.
A week to 2 weeks after we'd done Century and we'd done it in this imperfect style, I said to Pete that I thought we should go back, but as kind of like a joke, just to see how it would sit with him.
I was basically exchanging emails with my parents back home. Dad sent this email. He was saying, you know, you've done these 2 years training. Maybe when you get home you might reflect on this and think, oh no, you know, I think you could have gone back and gone and had another go.
And he started to make some hints back to me that maybe we should go back. And then I came back and sort of reassessed what I was thinking again, and I came a little bit more sure about it again. And then he would say something that would make it positive, and before you know it, we're going, yeah, let's go back. Let's go back. It's going to be okay.
We didn't want to think it, but deep down you do know that it's best to place gear on lead when you're trad climbing. That's the ethics with it, isn't it? That's trad climbing. You know, you start at the bottom with your rack, you climb, you put the gear in, you get to the top. But I think because we'd put that, it felt so flipping hard the first time that we were just like, oh God, this is going to be epic.
We'd climbed it once to the top already, and we knew how far that pushed ourselves to your physical limit. And when you've done that once in your life on a climb, it's like a heart of dread thinking about it again, because you know you've got to sum it up again. We made the decision to run it out loads on the gear, so the chances of kind of hurting yourself if you fell off the route were really, really bad.
Yeah, you'd just be falling head first into the ground.
Doing it this way has turned in from just a really hard crack that's just kind of loads of physical effort to being hard, and yeah, definitely it's got a risk element to it now.
And when we came before, it was at the beginning of the trip, so we were ready for it. And now I just feel weak, like a punter. You'd run it out and you'd look back at your cam, you'd just be like, oh my god, like Tom is not even close to being able to keep me off the floor on that. Like, no way. I'd just hit the floor. You just gotta not think about it. Just try not to think about that.
It's dangerous the way they've run it out. It's good, you know, it's a good tactic, but only someone of the calibre of Pete and Tom could probably do it like that. I'd have trouble doing it like that, put it that way. I wouldn't like to do it that way. I prefer another cam or two, you know.
You know, to place the gear on lead on an Offwidth pitch is bold. You know, you're not only figuring out how to keep yourself on this thing and how much anaerobic threshold you can handle, but now you're also protecting your neck from the ground.
It definitely felt harder the second time. Don't usually shout on routes, but I just had to shout for some reason. It's not good. I don't like shouting on routes.
It was amazing to watch because I know he tries really hard, but in terms of screaming and shouting, you never see that from him. It was like watching Sharma on Century Crackers, amazing. And he was just, he was there going, ooh, and puffing out and just full on giving it, the screaming. And it was amazing. I was gripped belaying.
Edge. Let's go back, huh? Come on. Come on. Focus. Focus. Focus.
When I left Century last time, I never thought I'd come back down here. I really didn't. I don't really know why I've changed my mind.
We're going back to make it a more perfect style ascent, and we're going back for reasons of what other people have said, and that didn't feel right, and I was unsure about how that level of risk sat with me and the reasons for doing that.
Yeah.
I was really nervous that he wouldn't do it and he would have some problems with the pressure and he'd make a mistake.
Oh, thank God that's over.
They had to go back. They knew they had to go back. I told them that they would be able to do it also. They were the candidates for this route. They had to go back, they went back, and they did it. So, well done, boys. Good job.
The main thing that I've learned from this whole experience is setting a goal towards something that you didn't think was possible. And I've now got this belief in myself that I can do that again and again.
I wouldn't believe how many times I've heard, this is the last thing I'm going to do, and then I'm not going to do any more. I already know that he goes to the next stage and then he thinks of something new, and it just carries on. And I've learnt to accept that. Sometimes.
Days will turn out so much brighter.